Hello, everybody. My name is Stephanie Myers. I'm the public programmer for Touchstones Nelson. I'd like to welcome everyone to our launch of New Echoes in the Staircase. This is a video series. We've got a couple of videos to show you this evening that look at some murals that we've had done in the Ward Street Staircase by some amazing local artists. Just to get us started off this evening, I'll tell you a little bit about the event, and then I'll introduce our executive director, Astrid Herodal. So the event is going to take place here on Facebook Live, and so you've got the option to put in comments and put in questions into the comment section, and then I can show those right down here. They'll pop up just like that, just like magic. So if you've got any questions or comments, feel free to put those in there for us. We're going to be showing the two videos. We're going to be talking to the artists. We've got a panel lined up too as well to discuss the art and what this residency looks at, and kind of bringing art into those sort of liminal spaces, those spaces that this used to be the staircase that was used very regularly when the building was City Hall. That's where everyone went to pay their parking tickets. And so now it only kind of gets used mostly by the staff. We've opened up a few times, maybe 2 summers ago now. Time has no meaning. And we had musicians playing in there, and it was amazing. It's such a great space. It's got a good echo to it. It's really, and the banisters is old wood that like 1 million people have touched. So it's a really fabulous space. So I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say about the videos and looking at the art in there. And I really look forward to the future when we can open up those spaces again and have people in there to see the art and experience that space. Of course, this project wouldn't be what it is without funding from the Vancouver Foundation. So, of course, I'd like to thank them for their very generous support of the arts, local arts in the area. And now I'd like to introduce Executive Director Astrid Herodal.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Astrid. Where are you?
I'm on Badger Trail.
Of course you are.
I thought I'd join everyone from nature before the sun sets, which is very fitting because right now I really want to recognize where we are. Me physically here in this space, the museum, us in Nelson, and anyone in the region. We at the museum recognize that this is the unceded traditional territory of the Sinayaks and the Chinaka people. We thank the Sinayaks and the Chinaka Yakanuki people, as well as the Métis people, for the opportunity to live and learn and share in cultural experiences in this incredible place. A note about how this sort of started is the project began in 2018 with Amber Santos. And at the time, we received funding from the Hamber Foundation to bring Amber in to do the first mural. And at the time, it was called Divulgence, which was really about sharing those secrets and opening up that space and wanting to recognize the behind the scenes work of the museum and wanting to open that up so that people could access it and not feel excluded from it. And then we changed it to art upstairs, downstairs. Then in 2020, we rebranded this project to be New Echoes in the Staircase. And that is really about the reverberance, the absolute change that art can make in a space, and particularly the new echo that us at the museum, all of us are undertaking. But thank you everyone for being here, and I'm so excited for everyone to see the work of filmmaker Carlo Alicos and the incredible work of Amber and of Damien. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Astrid. Have fun out there. So now I'd like to introduce our first piece. I am going to read what I've written here and see if it still makes sense. Amber Santos is a muralist and a mama, and not necessarily in that order. She is German, Anishinaabe, and Métis, and she's worked with the Nelson International Mural Festival as the coordinator now for 3 years, and this year she is the curator. I wasn't in the building when Amber was doing her painting, but it's always to watch the sun in there play on the art. It's so amazing to be able to check out, and I'm really honored to be able to see that art pretty much on a daily basis if I want to. So I'd just like to introduce Amber Santos. Oh, I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Hi, Stephanie. Hey, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah. Hey, Amber. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. Kids are all tucked in bed, so I'm delighted to have a chance to chat and connect this evening.
Awesome. Do you want to introduce your art piece and your video a little bit, or it's up to you, or do you just want to sort of show it?
Well, it has me talking in it for quite a long time and talking about it. So I guess the only thing I would add is thank you for the opportunity to make the art and to speak about it. And I had so much fun with the Touchstones team and with Carlo creating the video. So I hope you enjoy it.
Awesome.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'll just get this playing just like this. Ooh. I gotta do, I'm gonna do this first. And then I'm gonna do this.
Mapping is
Oh, wait a minute. It's not, sorry. I had it lined up, but now it's not there. There we go.
And you plot it down on a piece of paper.
Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Mapping is a tool of colonization. You have power when you create a map. When you have the knowledge and you plot it down on a piece of paper, you can say, this is the thing, and I have the power. I know the places, I know all the points. And so I wanted to reclaim the mapping, the subjective mapping for myself as a tool of empowerment. My name is Amber Santos, and I am German, Anishinaabe, and Métis, and I live here on the unceded and traditional territory of the Sinais and the Ktunaxa and the Silks peoples. Art for me is a way to express ideas, try to make sense of the world. It's something that nourishes me. Every day I do creative acts, just like I need to eat and do exercise and drink water. I also need to create, and it's a way of connecting with people. I've collaborated a lot. It just kind of gets me excited. I had started working on a body of work called Maps of Belonging, which really looks at this sense of belonging and feeling of belonging, what makes us feel that we belong, which is a really kind of human need. I've been working with murals for quite a few years, and I really love taking ideas and putting them into the public space, working in the public space. And so for me, an opportunity to expand this body of work to a public institution was really interesting and exciting because the location and the context also shapes the work. It was really exciting and interesting and mysterious. I mean, I spent as much time as I could. I would like bring my lunch and bring coffee and sort of like camp out here for as long as possible. And it was really interesting to like watch the light and to hear the sounds and to experience this perspective out onto the street. I left the door open a lot of the times because I'm used to working in the public space as a muralist, and I love engaging with the public as I work. I hope that people can find a connection to the piece. It's called Heading West, and it touches upon my own personal ancestral geography. I'm mixed blood, and so on my mother's line, I'm German, and my grandparents immigrated from Germany and made their way to Montreal, and then eventually to Calgary, and eventually to Revelstoke, where I was conceived, and then eventually to the Kootenays. And on my father's line, my grandmother is Anishinaabe, Métis, Swampy Cree, and French, and she's from St. Rose du Lac, Manitoba. And her partner, when she was young, was worked on the railway. And so they moved west, you know, from Manitoba, eventually Saskatchewan, then Alberta, and then also settled in Revelstoke, where there was a coming together of these different worldviews and these different cultures. And I was sort of conceived out of that. And so I started with my personal story, but being in this place that holds the stories of our community, I I started to expand on that and think about how that is actually quite a shared story for a lot of the people that live here. I felt that I could, by simplifying it and abstracting it and leaving it really sort of like clean and open, other people could bring their own, try to make their own connections and maybe project their own ideas or stories onto the piece. Well, this is a public space. And so this space actually belongs to all of us, right? This space belongs to our community. And so I feel like it's really innovative and interesting for a museum to open up in this way. I think it's so interesting the way that Touchstones is, really kind of talking about being a colonial institution and then unpacking that and taking that apart and thinking about, well, how can we use this institution then for reconciliation, for interesting dialogues, for community healing, for community engagement? If we rethink our public institutions in that way, they are our institutions, right? They do belong to the people. And so I really love that conversation, that opportunity. We can rethink, we can reimagine, we can do different things with our institutions. Welcome to my studio. So this is a studio here in my home. And I've been working on this body of work called Maps of Belonging. And so one of the explorations was after being away from this area for a long time where I grew up, upon returning home, I felt a huge love for the land. And I think loving something is really about taking care of those things as well. And so I started to meditate a lot on being a settler here and what it means to be a settler, and sort of putting myself out there to contribute in some ways to protecting this place. And so I worked with some local activists. One person, Kaylinda Keevy, was a really key person that I was really grateful to work with and learn from. And we created this book called The Town of Nothing, which I illustrated and she wrote. And this was a fundraiser for Jumbo Wild Glacier, to keep it wild and to protest the resort that was going to be built there. Some of the mapping work also explored what it is like and how I feel about living on Sinixt territory as a settler. And so that piece, for example, is sort of some of the first mapping work I did. I had the honor and the privilege and joy to work with Marilyn James, Sinixt elder, Smamim, which means belongs to the women, one of the laws of the Sinixt. And we worked on this book called Not Extinct, Keeping the Sinixt Way, which was written by Marilyn James and Therese Alexis. And there's an oral component to it where Marilyn and Therese tell traditional stories of the Sinixt. And within those stories are lessons, are laws, is guidance to how to take care of this land. This is the last little piece of a series I did last year. My husband and I recently grew our family through adoption. And we spent a month in our kids' home where they grew up with their foster family in a month of transitioning onto our home. And so I started to map out this notion of building family. And I worked with canvas and acrylic and also stitching. And I love stitching on canvas and stitching on paper. There's like a meditative quality to stitching, and it sort of slows down and it allows the space for contemplation. I feel that when I'm stitching, I'm sort of like inhaling and exhaling and breathing in and out as I work. And I really like that in terms of like finding meaning and understanding the work and the spaciousness of the work. This is the last kind of most recent work within this body of work, Maps of Belonging, that are influenced by living through a pandemic and the way that our relationships have changed and how we've sort of reorganized ourselves and how our networks have grown or changed or morphed. And so much focus on the hands, and being with my children over the summer and camping and being outside, they became very conscious of, hand sanitizing, and they started to call it handitizing. So I call this series handitizing. And I'm also working with the stitching again on the paper, which is really kind of a satisfying act. The kind of foundational pieces of my art practice is
Hello, Jessie.
And I really encourage anyone that is building a body of work or wants to develop their art practice to keep a sketchbook and use it every day. And keep it with you all of the time so that you can capture your ideas, your thoughts, little bits of poetry, so that you can experiment with materials and practice. And I really encourage you to not be too precious about your sketchbook so that you can really let new ideas emerge and for things to come out of unplanned experimentation. I don't really believe in mistakes. I think in art, mistakes are just opportunities for something new to happen. And so my sketchbooks are really messy and there's, a lot of random stuff in there. But there's a lot of ideas that I have for future paintings or for future series or bodies of work. And I really like mapping things out with text as well as with images. I would say I love changing the format of my sketchbook every few years. So sometimes I work in square and then I'll go really small and then go bigger. And this year I'm going to start. This is my new sketchbook that I am waiting to start. And it's a bigger one and it opens up nice and flat. And I've got beautiful quality of paper and I'm really excited to start using it.
I'm muted. Shocking. I should have been muted during the video. I'm sorry about that, folks. I had my microphone on. I didn't realize I was still able to be heard. But yeah, love that video. Love to hear Amber talk about her work. And it really adds that context to it when you get to actually see the work in person. And then the peek inside her studio is great. I totally understand the looking forward to a new sketchbook. That sort of blank canvas. So now I'd like to introduce our next artist and muralist. Damien is a self-taught digital and acrylic painter. He is I'm going to mess it up. Glacken, German, Irish, Austrian, Hungarian, and Canadian. And I was lucky enough to be in the space when Damien was painting, and he was so generous with his time and so generous with the talents, and it was really great to be able to go down there, poke my head around the corner every couple of days and see the work sort of come to life. It was really surprising, and I'm very, very honored to be able to have seen that come to life, and you'll get a little peek of it here. So I'd like to introduce Damien John. Hello there, Damien. How are you?
Well, thank you. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
It's Glasden. Stephanie.
Thank you.
Stephanie said it right 3 times in a row, and
and then
under
messed it up.
pressure.
Yeah,
That's all right.
exactly.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah. Did you want to talk a little bit about your video before we play it?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody involved. I have lots of gratitude, Carlo, for taking the time to make it. I have gratitude to Touchstones and all the staff there who are so helpful and gracious and made the space available and easy to work in. I'm really thankful to be able to work in peace and harmony in the traditional territories of the Sinaiaks and the Tanaha, Okanagan people, the Colville Indian bands. I'm really thankful to the support I have within my family, my parents, my mom and my stepfather, my girlfriend, all of these people who have been so helpful in creating a base for me in which to do my artwork. Without them, I would probably be working in 7-Eleven or something. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And I'm really grateful to be able to have had the big canvas and to have worked in that very strange kind of environment. You'll see the canvas.
That was probably a bit of a challenge.
It was challenging, but yeah, lots said in the video. I'm super happy with it. It turned out really well. So first time I saw it was today, and I hope everybody gets some sensibility of some of the work done and my art practice through it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, let's take a look at the video here. I'm going to do this, and then doing that one, doing this one. Couple little steps to do. There's probably a quicker way to do this, but I haven't figured it out quite yet.
Humans, what we do best is make beauty. That's our best thing. And we all do it in a different way. And if we can find a way where we can show that to other people or allow for it to exist, that seems to me to be the best thing we can do with our lives. Hi, my name is Damien John. I live in Weimar, BC. I do a bunch of types of art, wood sculpture, I do acrylic painting and digital painting. Yeah, my art means lots of things. It's kind of been my saving grace in terms of wanting to exist, really. I was interested in creating art in town, and it sounded like a really interesting venue. Being in a big, empty, unused staircase was therapeutic. It felt good to be alone and working on art. Here I'm creating something and nobody really knows what it is. I hope that when people come across it, it's curious to them. Like they want to explore it, they want to spend a little bit of time with it. Maybe it invokes some joy. It's usually what I'm looking for, is some kind of invocation of a positive feeling. So I like to use the bright colors and the positive characters, and I hope it speaks to the power of women and elders. The act of putting art into a space that's not used, it creates a draw to it perhaps, and there's a lot of unused space around that feels, I don't know, wasteful almost. And I think creating something of meaning in one of those spaces, it celebrates these lost, maybe lonely places, and will create some draw to them, and who knows what comes out of that. I really think it's quite beautiful how the local arts councils and artistic groupings, the broader groups of them, are really supporting Indigenous peoples and people in the margins and that kind of thing. It feels like there's a strong support within this community towards bringing art that has a lot of variety to it and a lot of various cultural inputs. And I think that's really important in art. Well, I built this art studio, or I didn't build it by myself. My stepdad, my mom, my uncle, my nephew, and myself all worked together. This used to be actually an outdoor kitchen. So this will give you an idea as to some of my process. It's pretty scattered. I'm not a linear artist. I do lots of work at once, and I do tons of projects ranging from years of engagement through to weeks or days of engagement. Some paintings take me a day or two to finish. Some, like this one, I've been working on this one for, gosh, a year, and it doesn't have a year's worth of work in it, but I just leave it to percolate. I've got a lot of my art that I've finished in this area or that is ready to be worked on in this area, kind of like a place to hold. Got all my various acrylic paints kind of living in this space as well. And then I've got various things, random gloves. I've got some of the stuff I've been working on in terms of transferring digital work onto more physical mediums, and then I can put them into paintings. This is a really old piece that I was working on to turn into little fairy houses that I've never gotten done. That's probably 4 years ago that I started that. I'm mainly an acrylic painter. I use acrylics because because of the color selection mainly, and it's really easy to use. It's not like oil where you have to wait for it to dry, and I know a lot of oil painters like to mix as they paint. I tend to lay down color pretty concentrated, and then I let them dry. They dry pretty fast. If I want to hurry the process, I'll use a hair dryer. Yeah, it's a fun and easy way to engage with painting. Anybody could do it. I would say carving to me is newer than the rest of my art. I have always, I'm a rambler in the woods, and I'm always collecting leaves and pieces of wood and stone and everything else. And I've always done hand carving with knives and things when I'm out in the woods, but I've decided to get a little bit more refined with it. The tool I use is kind of like a Dremel. It's a spinning tool. It's actually a dental tool with wood carving bits in it, and it sounds like the dentist. But this is an amazing tool. It's called a micro motor power carver in the carving world, and it can go in both directions. Its motor is right in the handle, so it's really easy to use. And it's amazing in terms of what you can do with it. You can pull lots of material off of the wood really quickly with it, and you can get really detail oriented. As I've explored carving more, I found the wood makes a huge difference. So this is yellow cedar. Cedar is used by carvers, especially indigenous carvers, in the Northern Hemisphere and on the coast a lot, because it's really easy to carve. When you're pulling material off of wood where you get the grains and stuff, the softer material will pull out easier, and where the grain is, where it's a little bit harder, it pulls out less easy. So it creates these little indentations in the wood that you have to be aware of. It happens less with softer woods like cedar, and it happens more with harder woods like hemlock. And then with these carvers, you can also work into stone. So we have a local quarry that's got these beautiful pieces of stone with all the various colors in them, and I'm just starting to experiment with that. And I need to use diamond tipped pieces to carve out of here, and it's a much slower process. A lot of my process with art is just figuring things out and moving into new mediums and pulling my artistic craft and brain into the new medium, and just having fun. So this is my humble digital workspace. I do a lot of digital art. I was really drawn to it because of the versatility, and I've always loved deeply saturated colors, and it was so easy to do digitally. That was my first pull towards it. I thought, wow, I've been looking for a place where I can do this and explore color. And I started actually working with a mouse. A mouse is a crude artistic tool. It doesn't flow naturally, especially if you're used to pencils or paintbrushes. And then as I got better at it and more interested, I decided to save up and buy an actual drawing tablet, which is this one. Then I got another grant that was basically an equipment grant, and I wanted to kind of upgrade my interface, but also the portability. And so I got an iPad Pro. This is what I use mainly now. The screen's big enough. It's not as big as this, obviously. It's a beautiful interface to work with, and the stylus is amazing. I've really liked the medium because it's versatile. I can do things pretty quickly with it. I can play with the composition of the painting. I can move things around really easily. I can take things out really easily. So it's a fun medium to be very explorative with. So as a artist, there's points of entry to all of the various skill sets. Like if you want to be a glass blower, there's equipment that you got to acquire. And there's barriers to starting things that often show up. And there are barriers that keep people from being creative because they don't think they have the right tools, or they don't imagine that they can do it without a very specific set of tools. I want to encourage people who want to be creative to just engage with maybe what they have. And this is what I did in the beginning of my especially my digital art, but any of the art processes that I've engaged in. So I'd always liked the idea of Photoshop, and I hadn't used it very much. But I just started playing around with it, and all I had was a mouse. And my medium for drawing was always a pencil, generally, or something I held in my hand. And a mouse is a completely different thing. But I just was intrigued by the medium, and I had a baseline set of tools that were crude, but my engagement with it just kept piquing my interest, and I was able to do art that still had meaning to me, even though the tools were crude. So I would encourage anybody who's really struggling with how do I enter into the game to just start wherever it is that you are and whatever tools that you have. I started doing tutorials that were online, and there's lots of free stuff. It's really easy to engage with new skill sets these days because there's really good teachers on YouTube. And as long as you have an internet connection, which you can get at libraries if you don't have it in your home, you can start learning things really quickly. My process was working with what I have, exploring it as a tool, and not trying to shift it very quickly. And as far as art goes, I think it's really interesting to explore using the materials around you versus always trying to go for the best right away, because it makes you think about how one to engage with the material and the process in front of you in a way that is fulfilling personally, which I think it's a big part of art. And sometimes the best art comes from those processes because you have to struggle and work so hard to refine it. And none of the work that a person does as far as creation goes to waste. I think it always adds to the next thing that you do. So I would say if you're an artist, learning new things, feeling like you don't have the best tablet out there or whatever, it doesn't really matter as long as you're enjoying the process. The work that you put in will still reflect in the work down the line, regardless of the tool set.
That was so nice to see. It was, I like the peek inside your studio, and I really jive with how you work, because I'm a person I'm a crafter, more of a crafter, but I've got little stations of different stuff all over the place. My roommates love it. I'm going to bring Amber Santos back into the stream here with us. And then I am going to introduce, we've got a couple of folks here lined up for our panel to chat about the videos. We've also got some questions and comments coming in on Facebook, so you can keep those coming. First, we have Monica Carpendale here. Hello, Monica. Lots of folks might recognize Monica from the Kootenai Art Therapy Institute. Thanks for joining us, Monica. And then we've got Jesse Woodward as well, who is a city councilor, and he is also on the city's cultural development committee. So welcome, everyone. So I had sent these folks a kind of a sneak peek of the videos a couple of weeks ago, so they had a chance to take a look at those. I don't know who would like to go first, and if you want to ask the artists questions or if you have any comments to share. Oh, Jesse, you're muted.
Can you there?
Yeah.
I'll go first. I think what I really appreciate about the videos is, and I think I wish I could see more of these kind of things, is where you see the artist's work and then you see the artist's process. I thought that was a really important piece to layer in there. And so I thank both of you, Damien and Amber, for allowing that kind of, I mean, it's personal, going into your own personal spaces. But it was just I found the videos to be, it really brought me into the spaces that was being worked on. It brought me into the process the artist took to get there, to come up with the work and the direction. And the story was great. I love story. Story is story and art are such a wonderful mixture. And thank you both for sharing your lives and your art.
Yeah, for sure. How did it feel, Damien and Amber, to have someone coming into? Do you have people come into your studios often? I can sorry, you're muted. I'll unmute both of you.
I can answer that. Can you hear me? Everybody can hear me okay? I heard there's a high pitch. I'm sorry about that if it's still there. Yeah, it was Carlo. I haven't really had anybody else come into my studio. It's pretty new. Yeah, it's vulnerable for sure to show people how you work. It's a little bit like showing the art itself. You put it forward and hope that there's some version of response to it. And yeah, with the studio, it's kind of similar, and it's hard to allow the person into the process, because with me, I mean, Amber's studio looked spotless. Mine's messy and got stuff all over the place. It's a reflection of my brain to some degree. So yeah, there is that that vulnerability, but it felt great to be able to share that, have the opportunity. I don't think artists get that enough. I think, like what Jesse said, and to have the stories, to see Amber's process, and I've just seen her mural. I barely know her face, so to get that sensibility is great. It feels really good. It makes me connect to the art more. I feel, I feel more a part of the story, and we don't have that enough, I think, with artists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just see the image and then we have to make up our own story. Amber, how was it for you to have someone poking around in your studio?
It was really great. I'm not really used to working so much in isolation. Like, I definitely have a sketchbook practice of drawing and writing, but I love collaborating with people and connecting. And a lot of my formative years in art took place in the northeast of Brazil, where my husband is from. And I was really around a lot of people making art in the streets, educators, art educators that were working in communities. And so I was really happy because I opened my studio. I occupied it in January of 2020. And then I was just getting it ready to sort of open it up, and our global pandemic hit. And so then I kind of hunkered down and cocooned inside of it for many, many, many months with this idea of like, someday I'll be able to have like, nights where we can like make art together and I can work in collaboration with others and just open up the space. And so it was really refreshing to have another human, with COVID restrictions and, all the cares and everything, and to receive Carlo in the space. So happy to be able to do that. And I love being in an artist studio. I've also had the chance to share a space called Suite 9 with some other artists here in town. And as soon as I get in there, I sort of feel my fingers itching. Like, I need something to do. I want to just start making things. And we have so many incredible artists in our community. So I'm looking forward to a future where we get to jam more and to do more things together.
Yes, duly noted. Monica, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or any questions you wanted to share with the artists?
Well, I very much appreciated both of the videos and your thought about it. And I do feel, I mean, certainly with the amount of Zoom, here we are in each other's faces here. And so there we are, invited into your studio spaces. I mean, we're in each of each other's homes, even though we are a distance. So there's this very interesting kind of paradox of, where we're, if we were out at a gallery, we would just be seeing and talking to you in this space that we are in. So this is a very interesting process. I thought that, whether you had distilled or the fellow Carlos who did the video clearly captured, a very strong essence, and it struck me as being very congruent, and very thoughtful. There was a place I was aware at the beginning of, for yours there, Damien, where you start talking about the importance of beauty, and making beauty, and what relationship that has, and how significant that is in our lives, and the invocation of joy, and and then we see your images there that you've done, and they feel quite fantastic, and the animals and birds coming through the clouds and coming out, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it in real space and time, how that is. And it's like there was beauty was the word that came out, and belonging is what you were speaking about there, the mapping of belonging and space and relationship, and that the significance of that, which is really core to what it means to be human. Both of those aspects, beauty and belonging, very, very central to what it means to be human. And it was interesting seeing hearing your articulation, and then seeing your other pieces that are in relationship to it, in terms of the mapping of both the personal story, but having it be a shared story, and very present there. And it struck me as I've loved maps myself, and there are some really interesting, I have books on artists that do different things with mapping that I go, oh, I'd love to share that with you if you're into mapping there. I don't know whether you've seen The Islands of the Salish Sea, the book on maps that they did all up on the islands, and they did collaborative projects where they were in community making, like there's Galliano Island, and then there's the Salt Spring, and they each have, and I've always wanted to see our communities get drawn, mapped, painted like that. Bryony Penn and someone else, I have the book at some point there that, it's really, they were that both conceptual, and then seeing them there in presence. It's wonderful to see the space opened up and having a much, new life that you've brought to it. I thank you, both of you, for your inspiration and presence with it. I don't know if there's anything about, I was wondering about the birds and the animals that coming out of the sky, if there was particular significance, meaning there, Damien.
Most of my art, I'll include some kind of imagery that's not, it's like a backdrop to the art, or there's a face in the mountains or something in the clouds. And I play with animals a lot because I try to get away from the anthropocentrism of humans a little bit. So I want to bring in the ancestry of the animals. And my thought with the animals was just to bring in local kind of images, but also some of the animals that get less artistic time.
Yes.
I have raccoon in there, and I have robin in there, and I have that kind of stuff because people like to draw the big majestic ones and moose and all those types of things. And I just wanted to bring in the other guys a little bit because if we spend any time in nature, they're all pretty amazing. And so that was part of the process. And I wanted to have this sense of these women singing creation into being. So the behind the scenes piece of the art space was the way I read it was like, what's in the walls of the museum, what's in the history of the space. And I was kind of seeing beyond the walls, and what lies underneath all of us is all of these beautiful stories of things, and all of our ancestors, and all of the things that have interrelated with those ancestors. And I was just trying to convey that idea of all of that collectively bringing reality into existence.
Yeah, drumming and bringing the sing and song into being right here and now with it.
Right.
Yeah, you definitely conveyed and did that. I'm sure that it will, you know, when one's there, it will feel like that for sure.
That's the hope.
Yeah. It's there in the video, and so I can only imagine that it's even more present in real life. So, yeah.
Yeah, Jesse, go ahead.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask Amber about that saying, "The map is not the territory," and that kept coming up in my head when I was seeing your work, and I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit about, because maps, especially in the modern age, and we have GIS, multi-layered maps. Maps are, when I'm doing city work, it's so much about maps and defining spaces. And kind of visualizing spaces before actually going into the real space. I just wanted to hear a little more about what is the power of maps, and are they? I mean, they're obviously very useful tools, but I think they're also used in a way that is very colonial, as you mentioned. So can you just talk a little bit about that more?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to just, before I dig in, I just wanted to say I'm so excited you're here, Monica, and thank you so much for your words. It really meant a lot for me to hear what you got out of the work, and I wanted to say thank you. What an incredible panel. So I talk about subjective mapping with my work, and there is a lot of power of mapping. There is a lot of power of committing something to a document and taking knowledge that is maybe based on oral histories or memories or dreams, and then putting them onto a document and saying that this is. And so I think, as an artist, as a creative person, every time that it is a powerful thing, I'm creating something, and so I'm taking that same kind of language and then using it to map out my own experience, my own imagination, my own sense of belonging and ancestral sort of strands and ties. And it was really fun because there were certain folks that really are tapped into maps on the side that you speak of, Jesse, of them being documents and data and fact. And they would come in and try to orient to my map. And I wanted to play with that a little bit as well. And so there was this desire to really know, what do each of those little dots mean? And where is this? And so I wanted to play around with that a little bit and sort of turn it around and make it very, very simple, so that there were some references that were tied to actual geography that people could sort of orient themselves, but then really open up and expand and see that a lot of different stories and connections could be made. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting intersect of how we use maps, how they have been used. They're incredibly controlling in the sense that they can just dominate. They can just say, "This is what's happening," as you said in the video. This is what's happening in this area, even though that completely disregards what's the life on the ground. So I think it's just a really interesting artistic endeavor to look at maps and how they've been used, and then reconfiguring them. So I just wanted to thank you for that work, and Damien, I wanted to thank you for your I really loved hearing your stories as you were talking about your art. I found that really very soothing and interesting, and you have a good storytelling quality in your voice and how you speak, and I just really brought me in. I just want to thank you for that, and that mixture of your art and your storytelling. So thank you.
Yeah, agreed. We're very lucky to have both of these artists and their work in the museum. It's so impressive. I like the idea too, Amber, of when looking at your work and hearing you talk about it, it's interesting to think about that everyone's got these maps kind of in behind them, right? The maps that bring their family, their ancestors together to create who then they become. And then we are now kind of creating our own maps going forward. And you with your little people now doing that. It's awesome.
Mhm.
One of my little people made a map of where we were going to go trick-or-treating at Halloween. And there was this like sense of like power and ownership and agency that this small person had about like our evening and their role in it. And for me, the mapping has given me a sense of agency and empowerment about my own story. And, you know, when you have a lot of different histories that have come together sort of from different directions, it's powerful for me as a human to map them out and put them in this one place that I sort of belong to and that interconnects me. And so a lot of my personal work is kind of more in that realm. And then, of course, you know, expanding out into the community.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I just wanted to share some of the comments that we're getting here on Facebook. We'll all recognize this name. Let's see if we have any questions here on Facebook. I don't see any questions. Oh, someone was agreeing with what Jesse had to say, of how it was really all like special for the artists to share their studio space and to invite us in like that. So that was really, really special.
I'd echo that one about the video. I thought the video was well. I mean, you guys were great in your speaking about your art and showing and you know, and talking about process and showing pieces that were meaningful. But you know, it was clearly cut in certain ways and thoughtfully done to really give us a really take us into your life and your process there. But I think this idea of reclaiming mapping as a tool for empowerment is really significant, and really shifting away from the, you know, the map is how people came and colonized and named and territories and took over in that way and said, well, I have been here and I have done this, when people had been there and all over. And I don't know whether it was, you know, I realized when I was thinking about it, I just, all those circles and dots, it just felt, you know, it wasn't all concentrated like how city is. It was much more how there are people that have been, you know, in these places all over in all these places. So, and I don't know whether that was, you know, that was my felt sense as I saw it, but I realized, you know, we hadn't had a dialogue, so I'm not sure if that's how you were seeing all those dots.
I'm not going to tell you my interpretation of the dots because
No.
I love yours. It went all over the place, Monica. There was so many different stories I was thinking about as I went. So there isn't one specific piece.
Idea.
And
Yeah.
if you see the compass, I played around with that with the compass as well, because there is a compass with the 4 directions and then the dots, but it's like a legend in a map where you're like, oh, this means this. And so I didn't really give the answers because I'm really leaving it up to the viewer. So that's truly, yes, that is what they represent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead, Jesse.
Question for you both. Both of you are, you know, use multiple different kinds of art process, art materials. I was wondering, for both of you, when you're doing a two-dimensional painting, drawing, or a three-dimensional sculpture or sewing, or I'm wondering, like, what's the feeling like when is there a difference in feeling of putting something on paper and actually like working with your hands? Do you feel like they work in different ways? Because both of you do that, right? Both of you are kind of different, you know, different materials. I was wondering your comments on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Damien.
I'll go first, I guess. That's a good question. And it kind of goes with this other question that's in the comments. When I'm starting a project, which medium do I determine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it has some of it is a little bit mundane, where it's I'm just tired of doing the other thing, and I want to explore another another way to express something. But the reason I like working with wood is it has a scent to it, and it has a quality of touch to it. And as an artist I'm not going blind, but I'm slowly losing my quality of vision as I get older, and it's changing. And so a lot of the time when I'm working with a sculptural component, there's a tactile quality to it that I engage with. And I'm always very curious about how art speaks to people who can't see, or people who, don't have the same quality of sight as everybody. So that's one of the reasons I explore sculpture. But the 2D process versus the 3D process, there's a slightly different dialogue that can happen, or conversation that can happen with the viewer. At least that's how I feel with the painting process. There's it feels like there's a more linear quality to it. You can only explore it from the front. And with the sculptural process, you can sometimes pick it up, you can get underneath it, you can touch it, you can breathe on it, there's a bit more interaction with it, which is why it has an interest to me in that way. And sometimes I do both of them, exploring the image in a sculpture and in a painting, because they create two different things. So it's really, really interesting to do that too. I just don't have enough time to do to do all of the art I want to do. That's my best answer at the moment, but that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
How was it to go in? Did you have a two-dimensional? I mean, the walls are two-dimensional and it's three-dimensional in the stairwell. So did you draw and design in the space? How did you conceptualize that, or was it in the process? And that's really an open question for both of you, I'm sure. Just as how did you engage with the space and design it?
Good question. Amber, did you want to start with that one?
Yeah, sure. Process is so interesting. Like, it's so fluid and intuitive. I have many different processes that can be like Damien, where it's like a material that kind of like draws me in. My kids are so active. They climb trees and ride bikes and scratch their knees. And so I've been mending their clothes. And that's actually what made me fall in love again with stitching. And I noticed that after I mend their things, those are the things that they want to wear, because they see like the love of their mama, like on their clothes. And I always had that with my grandmother, always crocheting and knitting and mending and sewing my name and things. And so I started stitching again. And through the pandemic, I've noticed it was like really connected to my breathing. And it was just like a way of self-care, just like, oh, I'm just going to stitch because, and then it turned into a patch and a mask. And now there's earrings, and I've got all these like sewing projects on the go. So it's really like a soul cry. Like, it's just something that comes from inside that you're just like, what do I have and what's there, and see what happens. And then there's the other side of it, where you might do a commercial piece where someone has an idea and you sketch it out and then you paint it, and it's like very, chop, chop, bang. We're going to, you want to be effective and efficient and communicate something. So it can really range. In that space, I decided on a palette, and I did lots of sketching and in my sketchbook, but a lot of my decisions were made actually in the space, spending time there. So I sketched out a few pieces, and then some things that people said when they came in and conversations that we had shaped it as it went, especially when people wanted to know exactly what the map meant, made me not want to be too explicit about what it meant. So, yeah. Oh yeah, Anna wants to sew. I know. Yeah. Sewing is healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Damien, did you want to comment on that at all?
Sure. Working digitally actually really helps me work with the idea of the space, because I can take a picture of the thing and then I can sort of work the image as it relates to the wall. So that's really helpful, but it does not give you a sense of how to work it's a big, murals are hard work. It's like up and down scaffolding, it's moving paint around, it's hours and hours of standing up and hands above your head and all kinds of stuff. It's not fun art in terms of getting the paint on the wall, and there's some fun in it in terms of like seeing it come to being, but there's other times where it's just like, oh my god, I've been painting this raccoon cloud for 3 days now and I still haven't got it right. And and it has it's hard to conceptualize how you are going to be in relationship to the place where you're working versus a canvas, a smaller canvas in front of me. And I, as Stephanie, I was up on this scaffold and I knocked over this big gallon of paint, and
Gravity was not our friend
everywhere. And there's only so much time to clean up paint, and it was everywhere. And I was like running down the scaffolding and trying to find stuff, and people were in the bathroom and that was the only sink I had. It was crazy. So there's this quality of the not, so you're making a two-dimensional art piece, but in the process
You're making it three-dimensional.
There's the whole story of the creation of the art. I don't think Amber probably had the same. Well, maybe she spilled paint, but that was the worst part of that project for sure. And then I was worried because I got it all over this table, and I was really, really hoping and praying that it wasn't some kind of old museum artifact or something.
The mayor's old desk or something. Yeah.
Luckily, it was just kind of a junky desk, but
yeah,
I was thinking, that was
a good time.
That's a great story and a great image there. It really is. I have one other little observation that I don't know. In your film, Amber, there is an old typewriter, and sitting behind Stephanie, we have an old typewriter. It felt like a repeated piece that's there. Are you guys?
This is I'm at my partner's house, Anthony Santa, and this is his old typewriter that he just has out for display purposes.
Not still typing on it.
Not lately. No.
Okay. And how about for you, Amber?
Mine is tucked away at the moment, but it was my grandmother's typewriter. And every Tuesday night when I was growing up, she would put her hair in curlers and sit under the hair dryer and type a letter to her mom, who was still in Germany. And so I inherited that typewriter. It's really special to me. And one year I thought, I'm just going to make my own business cards. Like, I'm not going to go get 500 done. I'm going to type each one. So I got to like 30, and then I thought, this is ridiculous. That's the thing. You just want to make everything when you're an artist. But like Damien said, there's just not enough time to do all the ideas. So I ended up getting some made. But those typed ones were a lot of fun to give out.
Well, those ones should be kept as artifacts.
Yeah, exactly. Art cards. Jesse, you had a comment, a question?
Yeah. So something that I often think about when I look at art in the world we live in these days, which is just, this highly digitized, globalized world where, you can talk to somebody on the other side of the planet, you can see their face, you can have interaction with them, you can work on projects with them. As Monica was mentioning earlier, there's kind of this, it's like this liminal space where we're all involved in. And I was wondering, the two of you here, where do you place art now in this incredibly hyper connected and digitized world? Do you still, because I think about when I took art history in university, I remember talking about, individual pieces of work that were done. I'm going to just think of like Guernica. Was it Guernica by Picasso? That famous piece. you know, that was like this stunning piece. We studied it for weeks. We wrote papers about it. It is an individual object. I'm wondering what do you think of art in this time that we live in? Do you think that individual objects still have power to move, or is it bodies of work, or is it the artists themselves as storyteller?
Yeah, good question. Who would like to start? Damien?
I love that question. Yes.
Okay, Amber?
The most basic answer to all of those things. Yeah, I think about this a lot because one of my things is I'm confused about where we sit as a human culture in the world. Why is it that governance, this is my latest rant, why is it that governance is always so power oriented? Why is it this top-down hierarchy that works never with kindness or beauty as its most profound tenets, but as capitalism and control being the main things? And where I see hope is in creation. I think human beings, like I said in the video, it's one of the best things that we do is create, and through dance, through music, through art, through how we love each other, through how we orate, all of these things are I believe the most important. They're the ones that will last. Even if we go into the zombie apocalypse, we will still share story. We will still do creative things in order to soothe each other and be with each other and love each other. And in spite of the fact that we're getting so interconnected with technology and stuff, we still seem to be drawn to these creative processes. Simple music is so beautiful. Dancing with your children or with your mom or with your dog is something that we're drawn to continually. Working on something creative, so many of us are drawn to these things, and it's the stories in them and all of those pieces that I think are, yeah, they're just really seated in what it is that makes us beautiful as human beings, and what it is that allows or brings us to part of the reason why we're here, I think, in this big cosmic machine. And so art is just so profound in that way. Not just art, but the act of creation and the act of doing stuff. And I don't think it has to be Picasso necessarily, or these big amazing artists, although they do add to the conversation. But I think anytime we create, any person does any of the things, some of the most beautiful pieces of art I receive are from children. And they just do them. They don't care what they look like. And it's inspiring to think about us always moving in that direction. And I think as an artist, that's what I want to help curate in this world, is this idea that through the act of creation and doing those things, we get better. And we work on this, like a version of technology that isn't what we consider technology. It's this relational space that becomes much better. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question, but with the yes, I think I did, and then I just extrapolated a little bit. Yeah, that's my best answer in the moment.
Yeah, that was great. Amber, did you want to comment on that question from Jesse as well?
That was so beautifully said.
Mm-hmm.
All of those ideas that you spoke of, Damien, really resonated with me. And I know that in my instincts of, like when the pandemic started, for example, I knew that I needed to get my hands busy. And I taught a lot more art online than I ever have. And I was really, really excited to spend time with people in the way that we could and get it wasn't that we were really looking at the screen that much. I would look up and everybody's hands would be down and their heads would be down and they'd be working on something. And then we would have moments of sharing. And there was this, just this kind of like cathartic and powerful and exciting moments that we got to spend together creating. And I just feel like the humanity of us is articulated through art, either making or, you know, being on the other side of it in appreciating or receiving. And that independent of whether we're in a capitalist system or, you know, the different ways that we organize as humans, these expressions are since the beginning of our humanity. And, you know, I feel like we all have a song, we all have a poem, we all have bodies that move, we have visions. When I look at cave paintings, nothing is you know, powerful for me is that even humans that we thought were much simpler than we are now created these incredible prolific works that try to organize and make sense and document and communicate and tell stories. And so I don't remember what the question is, but we're talking about art and I love it and I love making it and I love being in the zone. And so I'm going to ramble. I'll stop rambling now. Yes, all of the above. All of the above.
Yeah. Agreed. You guys are making my job really easy right now. Like I could listen to you guys talk about art and the creation of art and what it does to the soul and try not to cry. I have a couple of comments here I just want to show up from our Facebook feed. That's exactly, ramble on. And a question from Touchstones, and maybe we sort of were kind of talking around that as well, but I don't know if anyone else wanted to sort of address this maybe. Yeah, go ahead, Jesse.
Well, I have seen, you know, since the pandemic, I've seen this kind of, I say to people, it's kind of like a thinning. I feel like I'm very thinly connected to my community, which I used to be. It was my lifeblood. I loved going out in my community, and I loved exploring and seeing what was out there in the city of Nelson and the surrounding area. I really, really miss that deeply. I think about art galleries, and I think about libraries. I think about outside public spaces. I think about places where, markets, celebrations, events, where we would get together in kind of a random fashion, and you would just, you know, it was a public space. And I think we live in a time where a lot of public space has been commodified, or you have to pay to get in. So that puts it right away. Some people can't be in there. So I think art galleries, especially ones where it's affordable or free to get in there, and libraries and public spaces are really vital to actually have the intersect of randomness. You know, the online world is, we each individually create our own online world by the choices we make, and the sites we visit, the people we talk to, and so it's a bit of an echo chamber. What I love about the art gallery or the library or the public spaces is the free form quality of it, and that you bump into people that you didn't think were going to be there, and you have conversations, and you see things you didn't plan for. So I think that's the value of art galleries, is there's a random quality to it. There's a kind of a lifeblood of community engagement, and I think they're vital. They're vital for the future of how humanity works together and moving forward, especially after pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be, well, it is, you know, fundamental to who we are. And the galleries needs to be more and more accessible and more inspired. I mean, I think that these two incredible themes of beauty and belonging speak to what we need in our souls. We need to experience that way of walking in beauty and seeing things that inspire and touch our souls and give us, spirit and re-inspire us to be more aware and more awake, and to, look at, the flow and the clouds and the animals and the beings and the minutiae in a large way. And it involves and incorporates and brings us into a sense of connection and belonging and collaboration and the accessibility. Both these pieces of art that have been created in the stairwell feel so visually accessible and inspiring and present. I feel they're going to be deeply loved for many years. But I would like to see that happen more through the gallery. The Touchstones has done an incredible job this last year. The shows in the gallery have been amazing, absolutely amazing. I don't know when I've had that experience of walking into a gallery there with what is it, Meryl McMaster?
Yeah, Marilyn McMaster. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, walk in there and I just gasped. It was, oh my God, that was incredible, is incredible, her work. And to have that here, just so fabulous. So I think that the art and the gallery needs to keep speaking to, both the intimate creation that everybody is making, the social and large social justice issues that are emerging in art, as well as, the incredible bodies of art that many people in our communities have incredible collections of art that they've made or they have, and to have that all become, available and accessible and present. I love the dialogue, and I think you guys are doing a great job at Touchstones. Really do. I like the decolonizing. I like the whole reconciliation aspect and making sure that we've got more voices, and it's good.
Yeah, for sure. It's important work, and it's nice to be supported to do that work, right? It's like, as opposed to just, slapping up an Indigenous acknowledgement and then not doing anything else. It's like our organization supports us to do the training, and we have those conversations, and we have a board that supports us. So it's, to feel supported and doing that kind of work. And some of it's difficult, a lot of it's difficult, but it's so worth it. It really is. It feels, it's a special place to be. And of course, our own Erin Fay, the curator, who brings in a lot of those exhibitions that are just, and agreed, Marilyn McMaster was so stunning. I just wanted to steal them off the wall, to be perfectly honest. But I did not. And she's just saying here, so great to get to know Damien over the course of his work at Touchstones. Your mural is powerful, and I walk down those stairs as much as possible to see your and Amber's work. And it's true, she uses those stairs more than anybody else. She's always sneaking in and out of the building. Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on this incredible renaissance of public art that we're experiencing on a global level, and what a delight and privilege it is to work in these times where now we're getting more and more access. And just to honor that, it's been many years of work and sweat and of other artists that have really kind of paved the way and pushed. Graffiti is the root of a lot of, the naughty little brother of the big sister street art. And, now there's mural festivals all over the world, but artists for a long time have occupied the public space as protest and, illegally, and taking chances to get their voices out there. Marginalized communities that didn't feel like they had a place or a voice in the media or in the mainstream just kind of went to the streets and expressed themselves that way. So it's amazing to now, work in a time where we, get to bring our coffee and during the day, and I get to be here and do stuff in public space. So huge shout out to all the people that have come before and made it so amazing now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, go ahead, Damien.
I also want to kind of reflect what Amber was saying. And in this community, I haven't been in many other art communities, but we have this kind of unique opportunity in this small community of, there's so many artists here. It's crazy how many people do art and just create. There's fantastic artists all over the Kootenay region. And what I've seen with working with the art gallery and been impressed by is this want to shift the colonized mindset around it. It's really heartening. I've done other work with other industries, and as people attempt to shift things like boardrooms and stuff like that, it's terribly difficult. It's work that goes into things like intergenerational traumas and everybody's individual traumas and the empire-based everything and all of those types of things. And what I think art galleries are doing, they're kind of at the forefront of it. I think a bunch of them are, for sure, where they have these really interesting people, and they're tearing apart pieces of the colonized mindset and bringing in indigenous artists, queer artists, just really peppering us with these other voices, which is so important. And it feels like, to me, that's where the gallery space becomes this voice of speaking out against all the other things I was talking about earlier, the oppression and everything else. And it's safe. It feels safe and beautiful, and yeah, Touchstones has done such a great job. The Meryl McMaster installation was so cool. I don't generally like photography, but I was thrilled with her photography, and so I'm impressed and thankful with the local art community for what they're doing in terms of the decolonizing space. I think it's a fantastic collective job of that, and it's important.
Yeah, for sure. And it's nice when you start seeing who's missing at the table, and you start seeing, when you look back through time, and it's like, oh, it's all looked like this then. And it's like, is that really the way it looked, or is that just what was being shown to us, right? As opposed to it actually mirroring what society actually looked like. And again, yeah, we're so thankful at Touchstones to have the support to do the work. It's really, really important. I'm just checking out if I'm missing any questions on Facebook. I don't see any. Did anyone else have any questions or comments they wanted to share? I'm just cognizant of the time. I don't want to keep you up all night.
I'd just like to say one last piece here before we go. I was talking earlier about, like, where do we place art in the modern spectrum, and something I think that is, and Monica, of course, you know all about this, is that art is open to anybody. You can, and Damien, you talked about that. You can grab whatever and make something out of it. I think that to me is what gives me the hope that, art can be this transformative place, but that it is open to anybody. You can go outside and pick up some sticks and some rocks and make something. And I think in our very technical world, I think people, I know when I went to art school, I got really caught up in material. What material am I going to choose? How am I going to choose it? What color? And I got really caught up in that, instead of getting caught up in just dreaming up the idea of what was going to be. So I think, for me, the art is a place, that the doorway that's open to anybody. You just got to walk through it. And the gallery, the modern gallery, I think, is coming from a place of very defined who gets to be in there, to, a lot of modern galleries now are experimenting in all kinds of ways and really trying to show different ways of seeing. So I think, throughout this pandemic experience, music and art, for me personally, has pulled me through, because it's been really hard for a lot of people. But you can just go on the internet and listen to some great music, or watch a great movie, or see a great artist, or what have you, and it's there, and it really always touches you. So I think that for me is the basis of the power of art, is that it's accessible to everyone. Anyone can do it. You can walk through that door, and when you tell a great story, it always resonates. So thank you for both what you do and carrying on the tradition of making art.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesse. That was lovely. Did anyone else want to say anything before we sign off for the evening?
I just want to say thanks to my family, my husband, and this community that supports creativity, and to all of you. What a lovely evening.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say a big thank you to everybody. It's been so nice to have some version of community in amongst the pandemic, and this is fun. And anybody who's watching, even in the small group, who struggles with the being creative, I'm a big champion for decolonizing as much as possible everything that we've been messaged about as it relates to these empire-based messages of how we have to be in the world. And creativity is kind of, I don't know, it's saved my life. It has really saved my life. And so the more we engage with it, whether we're ingesting it or we're doing it ourselves, the more I think we step into our beautiful humanity. There's just so many aspects of create, and you alone can speak your voice. Nobody else can do that. This is what art is so important for. We can say what we want to say in so many different ways. We don't just have to use our voice. We don't just have to use written word. We can do it in so many different ways with imagery and other things. And because creation is creation, there's undiscovered things. It's so exciting to me. So as a last, right, sign off, do creation, be creative, do as much as possible, because we need more of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, thank you all so much for your time this evening and your talents and your words and your questions. Yeah, it's been really, really lovely, and I'm not gonna cry. I swear I'm not gonna cry. God. But yes, thank you so much for all of the work you do, and the staircase is so lovely, and I can't wait to blow those doors off Ward Street and have folks in there and seeing your work and playing music and running up and down those stairs and making a ruckus. So I'll sign out this evening. Thanks again to our sponsor, our funders as well, Vancouver Foundation. And yes, so honored to be working on these lands, being a settler here, and helping folks do what they can do to show those voices and your unique voices out to the world. So thank you all, everyone. Thanks everybody for joining us on Facebook, and this video will exist on the website in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.